While some young NBA stars were able to secure long-term max contracts to stay with their respective franchises, there are others that are on the outs. Of course, the players I'm talking about are Jonathan Kuminga, Josh Giddey, and Cam Thomas. All these guys are 25 years of age or younger, all have shown enough on the floor to at least attract some buzz from across the league, and each of their camps have a set number for what they should make on the open market. However, all three of these guys have yet to sign a deal despite us being over 3 weeks into free agency and teams seemingly running out of cap space. So what gives for these guys? Why aren't their current teams reaching a deal with them despite the talent they possess and their body of work? Why haven't other teams at least been involved in signing trades for them? In this video, we're going to address each of these players, what's worked against their case of securing a long-term deal, and what the resolution will be in the near future. Be sure to drop a like as that makes a massive difference. Be sure to sub for even more content like this. Starting off with Jonathan Kaminga, his journey with the Warriors since being drafted in 2021 has been an absolute roller coaster, and has nothing to do with this egregious nickname of Cum Bucket that Warrior fans gave him. Oh god. Kuminga went 7th overall to Dubs from G League Ignite and was highly touted for his explosiveness and physical tools at the wing position. His outside jumper wasn't figured out yet, but having the benefit of playing behind accomplished veterans and being with an organization that had a proven track record of developing younger players, the sky was the limit for him. The thing is, being brought into such a team that had sights of winning a title meant that Kuminga's run for his rookie season would be rather limited. There were flashes of him being able to get downhill and get by defenders in the half court, but there were many glaring flaws, such as his off-ball defense and inability to be an effective playmaker. If Kuminga was able to work on these aspects of his game and play within the Warriors system, which requires constant ball movement, player off-ball movement, the ability to hit outside catch-and-shoot looks, and make quick decisions on the ball, he more than likely would have been offered a sizable rookie extension that would have seen him stay in the Bay. However, Kuminga simply hasn't bought into the Warriors system. There's even been a ton of drama in his Bay Area tenure. Of course, we have Steve Kerr playing struggling veterans over Kuminga in the past, despite his continued growth, with Kerr even admitting in interviews that the cachet or trust he had in those vets caused them to get the nod over Kuminga and even Moses Moody. This caused Kuminga's camp to leak reports about him losing faith in Steve Kerr and not believing that he could fulfill his full potential playing under him. And this report was so powerful that it caused a now shaved head Jonathan Kuminga to get the starting role the literal next day. Kuminga from that point on became the team's second leading scorer and was a crucial player who could create rim pressure, but little did he know that this trial run and the start of the 2025 campaign would exemplify why moving forward with Kuminga on a long-term extension would be really tough for the Warriors. Kuminga is talented. I mean, we saw him average 26 points per game on 52, 40, 80 splits in the final 3 games of the Minnesota Timberwolves series, but he hasn't seen massive improvements in the areas where he was deficient. He's still a poor outside shooter, which limits the amount of lineups Kerr can play him with on the floor. He's not a great shot creator and struggles to create for others, despite being such a downhill threat that can command attention, having just a 1.8 to 1.4 career assist to turnover ratio. He gets disengaged when not really being involved in the offense, and he still has his defensive struggles despite the physical profile suggesting that he could be great on that end. These flaws on top of the Jimmy Butler trade are why he was getting DNPs to end the season, as Kerr was faced with the great challenge of having to play 3 non-floor spacers in Jimmy, Draymond, and Kuminga on the floor together. And Kuminga didn't prove that he could be a player that could star in his designated complementary role like Moses Moody and Gary Payton II could in this system. The Warriors haven't offered him the deal he wants. The Suns and Kings have reached out to the Warriors and have offered him a starting role, but the Dubs don't like what they've been offered, being adamant about receiving a first-round pick and or a young player in exchange. At this time, Kaminga and his camp aren't in any rush to get a deal done, as he still wants to explore his options. And in the grand scheme of things, if he can continually evolve as a creator and improve on the defensive end, he can be a valuable two-way wing and quality starter elsewhere in the NBA. Next, let's talk about Josh Giddey and the ongoing saga with the Chicago Bulls. Josh Giddey was drafted in the lottery at the 2021 NBA draft by the OKC Thunder and was growing as a valuable piece for the team as the true natural point guard that they needed. He was never the most explosive player or gifted athlete, but given his size, great court vision, and playmaking ability, he was putting up triple-doubles in Madison Square Garden and put up a play-in performance of a lifetime against the Pelicans where he dropped 31 points, 10 assists, and 9 rebounds. The problem for Giddy is that as the team grew around him, he started to get left behind due to his deficiencies and not adapting as a player. Due to Giddy's lack of an outside shot, limited shot creation ability, and underdeveloped offensive game, teams schemed to practically ignore Giddy's existence on the floor in the playoffs, which consequently shrunk the floor for his teammates. It didn't help that he wasn't a great off-ball or catch-and-shoot threat and had a relatively slow release. He didn't have the athleticism or the combination of a great handle and sudden change of pace to get into the paint at will. He couldn't create great separation on his jumpers and wasn't the greatest finisher. Knowing this reality, OKC somehow dealt him to the Chicago Bulls for Alex Caruso without having to attach a first-round pick. Outside just the compensation, the move was also very strange at first because of the Bulls' existing backcourt rotation of Kobe White, Lonzo Ball, Ayo Dosunmu, and Zach LaVine. But after dealing Zach LaVine to the Kings at All-Star break, Josh Giddey started to put up supernatural numbers when given more responsibility on the ball. In the 19 games after All-Star break, he averaged 21 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 9 assists a game. He did this while shooting an insane 40% from 3 on 5 attempts a game and led the Bulls to a 12-7 record in that span. This of course included his signature moment in a Bulls uniform, hitting a half-court heave to defeat LeBron James and the LA Lakers. Fun fact, this shot ultimately could have cost the Bulls Cooper flag, because with this win, the Bulls and Mavs tied on record, and a coin flip was used to determine the 11th seed in the lottery that fell the Mavs' way. Yeah. Anyways, Giddey showed his ability as a cutter, used his size to punish smaller matchups in attacking and finishing at the rim, had increased confidence from outside, even pulling up for 3 in transition, and still demonstrated his excellent court vision. However, Giddey has not been re-signed by the Bulls at this point, with his cap looking at a deal similar to what Jalen Suggs got, seeking around $30 million a season. The Bulls, though, aren't willing to bring him back on that valuation, and no other team in the league is interested in bringing him on that contract either. It's key to remember that most teams are strapped on cap space, given how deep we are into free agency, and there's no need for teams to give up a larger contract for a restricted free agent when they're realistically the only ones bidding for him, or they know other teams aren't even going to offer that much. Secondly, any team bringing in Giddey needs to know that he's going to be their starting point guard, as there's no use in paying $25 to $30 million for a backup point guard. Giddey has improved and put up great numbers, but he's primarily effective with the ball in his hands, is a poor defender, and isn't a dynamic creator, meaning you have to have the right pieces around him to maximize what he can do on the floor. That's what makes any team signing him a tough task, and at this time, all signs point to Giddey and the Bulls eventually reaching a deal somewhat less than that $30 million valuation per year that Giddey is asking for. The Bulls have the leverage, of course, and betting on yourself while taking on the qualifying offer historically hasn't panned out well for other players. Last, let's talk about Cam Thomas and his saga with the Brooklyn Nets. Simply put, Cam Thomas is an absolute bucket getter. Being someone who can operate as a pick-and-roll ball handler, has a nice handle with a combination of hesitations and crossovers to gain separation or get by defenders, is a crafty finisher around the rim who can finish through contact, and is effective off the catch. And over the last 2 seasons, Thomas has averaged 23 points per game on a high volume of threes, but the problem lies in his identity as a combo guard that doesn't provide much utility elsewhere. Thomas is only 6'3" with defensive limitations, has taken 18 shots a game over the last 2 seasons, with a true shooting percentage of 55.4 and 57.5 in those seasons, and he can't be your lead playmaker, averaging just 2.3 assists per game for his career. He's seeking a 4-year deal worth around $100 million, but the Nets only offered 2 years, $28 million. obviously with the two sides being far apart in valuation. The league sees him as a volume bench scorer, and like I said with Giddy, taking the qualifying offer and risking injury or underperformance in that contract year is a very tough call. But guys, in the comment section down below, let me know your thoughts on these three and which of these three is the most surprising that remains unsigned. Do you see Kuminga, Giddey, or Cam Thomas as future All-Stars when given opportunity? Or do you think the league is good to back away from these guys and kind of lowball them because they're deficient in given areas of their games? Also, let me know where you feel these guys will eventually sign down the line. Sticking with the Warriors, if you want to know how they failed to secure a second dynasty with the young core that they had just a couple years ago, check out this video on the screen.